What is a core competency? So what we did was we took a look at the behaviors that are selected as being required for each employee to achieve success in their role. And so what we did was and we'll get to a slide about that. So we took a look at the values that were driven by the organization, the desired outcomes for the organization, and what they wanted to see delivered in service to its mission. Core competencies are generally defined as a combination of skill, knowledge, attributes, behaviors that enable an individual to perform a task or activity successfully within a given position. By the way, I'm Cynthia. Probably everybody knows that, but I thought I should start with that. Hope everybody has been safe and warm this week. It's been crazy. Competencies are also observable behaviors that can be measured and evaluated. And they're not typically based on subjective impressions like, is an employee good at their job? What we want to do is move away from subjectivity and move to objective behaviors that can be reasonably measured and had some kind of solid foundation to them. What I saw, so I actually go through a list of the annual conversations that come to me every month. So when the annual conversations get to HR, I actually pull a subset and I read them to see what they look like, what kind of information are in the annual conversations. I pull a subset of the interview worksheets to see what people are writing on the interview worksheets. And what I was seeing when I first got here were really subjective assessments of employees, both in interviews and in the annual conversations. They answered this question well. They're good at their job. And so that wasn't giving the employee anything really to learn from or grow from. It also was wholly subjective and didn't have any teeth to it. So we wanted to move in a direction of offering some substantial feedback to employees that could be measurable. Each position within an organization may require a different set of core competencies to achieve success. So for instance, the business office is going to have a different set of core competencies for their positions versus HR versus the public service facing positions within the organization. So each department looks a little different. The organization may choose a core group of competencies that every employee, no matter the role, must exhibit in the performance of their duties. And that's what we've done here at KCLS. We've chosen 4 that every employee must have, every applicant must be able to demonstrate during their interview, and then 2 for all supervisors and managers. And you'll see those as we move into the slide deck at some point this morning. So that's what a core competency is. So in terms of the framework, so what we've done is we've picked the core competencies to integrate throughout the entire employee experience at KCLS. So from the time an employee or a potential employee applies to a position, all the way through their annual conversation, and then into development plan and training, those competencies are going to follow them throughout the entire life of their employment at KCLS. So when they apply, they know what the competencies are for the position they're looking for, and they can educate themselves before they even walk in the door, all the way through their annual conversations and then into promotion and development. So it also is a methodology to communicate which behaviors are required and valued and ensures staff have a common and transparent understanding of job expectations. So for every LTA across the organization, from north to south, east to west, they all have a common set of language, competencies, and expectations so that there's consistency throughout the organization. And that's one of the big goals, is that we get consistency in what the employees experience as they live their life at KCLS, whether that's interviewing for promotion or having an annual conversation. So why have them? So clear and transparent expectations are set, and employees have a guide they can use to grow and learn in their role. Employees across the organization have a shared language to describe what's needed to be successful and providing reliable and high-quality performance delivery, so they know what is expected of them in the role, and they can educate themselves on that. And we have a website that you'll see soon that has all that information on there. HR services are integrated, which will enhance the consistency and planning, recruitment, hiring, learning and development, and performance management. And then that also leads to HR being able to budget our resources more effectively based on the needs of the organization versus just kind of guessing what the organization needs. Instead, we can pull the interview questions, we can pull the annual conversations and see, well, a lot of employees need additional help in customer focus, for instance. What does that look like? What kind of extra training is needed? And we can budget to those needs versus guessing. Skill gaps are more easily and quickly identified and addressed. And then staff mobility, organizational change, and improved workplace culture objectives are fostered and met by HR. So that it really is talking about kind of integration of all the work that HR does into kind of a core stream of business. So how did we go about this? Did anybody here do any of the core competency card sorts? Oh, good. So in December of 2016, NUU sent around an all-staff email to gather participants to do card sorts for all of the public service positions, so pages, LTAs, librarians, and PSAs. And we had over 100 participants in three sessions out in the branches, well, 3 days of 2 sessions each out in the branches to decide what the core competencies were for those public serving or public facing positions. And then internally, each of the departments did their own card sorts to decide what the core competencies should be for those internal departments and the positions in the department. So we took a very participatory approach to this. And then we did it for every position within the organization. So the executive director had a card sort, the directors had a card sort. So every position had a participatory approach to having their core competencies decided for their departments. So that was the process. So from there, we gathered up all of the data. So we had about over 1,000 data points of what the staff here at KCLS thought that needed competencies were for the roles within KCLS. And from there, we saw that there were 4 that rose to the top no matter which position was being analyzed and identified. And those were valuing diversity, customer focus, ethics, judgment, and values, and professional and technical knowledge. From there, we looked at all of the card sorts from the managers and supervisor positions, and 2 rose to the top for those card sorts. And those were coaching and counseling and managerial courage. So what we did was we took all of the results, found the top 4 to 6 that rose to the top no matter which position you had, and said for those 4, those are going to be required of every staff member at KCLS. And then for the 2 that rose to the top with the manager and supervisor competencies, those are going to be required for every manager and supervisor at KCLS. So that was the process that we used to get to the core competencies that we have.